So let's begin by looking at Acts chapter 2, starting in verse 22, and we'll see what Peter has to say on the day of Pentecost. Men of Israel, listen to these words. Jesus the Nazarene, a man attested to you by God with miracles and wonders and signs which God performed through him in your midst. Just as you yourselves know, this man, delivered over by the predetermined plan and foreknowledge of God, you nailed to a cross by the hands of godless men and put him to death. But God raised him up again, putting an end to the agony of death, since it was impossible for him to be held in its power. That's Acts chapter 2, verses 22 through 24. So we can see the very first thing that Peter is saying about Jesus, and quite clearly, he portrays Jesus as a real human being. He is a man, and he's a man who is attested to you by God. So not only is Jesus not God, he is clearly distinguished from God. So God is the one that is attesting Jesus. And how does God do this? Well, Peter says that God does this through miracles and wonders and signs. Now, is Jesus performing miracles and wonders and signs because he is God? No, that's not what Peter says. Peter says that God performed these things through Jesus. So Jesus wasn't able to do these things on his own because he's a human being. He's a man. He was able to do these things because God was working through him. He was empowered by the one God. His ability to perform God-like miracles was not because he was innately God, but because God was working through Jesus, a human being. And then Peter says that this man was delivered over according to God's predetermined plan and foreknowledge. This, of course, indicates that Jesus was in God's plans and purposes. We could say that Jesus preexisted, not literally, but in God's plans, in God's purposes, in God's foreknowledge. He was in God's mind. And in God's mind, he had the preexistence of Jesus in his thoughts. And in these plans, it was preexisted and it was considered that Jesus would be handed over and killed and nailed to a cross. So, of course, this man, like every other man, is mortal. He dies. But what happens? God, someone other than Jesus, raised Jesus up. So Jesus didn't get up on his own. Of course, he did die, and there's no sense here that says, well, he only died in one of his natures, but he didn't die in another nature. No, because the book of Acts doesn't say that Jesus is a God-man. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that he's 100% God and 100% man. No, it simply says that he's a man and that God is someone distinguished from Jesus. Jesus died, and God raised Jesus from the dead.